That's the problem with figuring shit out. Eventually, you run into someone who'd prefer all their shit remain thoroughly unfigured.
Welcome to the Busy Girls Book Club. We are a podcast that reads the most popular books all over the internet and reviews them, especially for other busy people like us, and lets you know if they're worth fitting into your schedule. I'm Casey.
I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Catherine. And if you can't tell by the quote, we are delving into a murder mystery and the idea of discovering a detective Sherlock Holmes style book called The Tainted Cup. It is a fantasy meets Sherlock Holmes vibes. We have the Watson and Holmes characters, and we follow the perspective of the Watson character, Din, and he is an enhanced human that can remember everything he's ever told. He has a very, very intense memory. And so it makes him as a very good investigator. And he is working for Anna Dolabra, I think is her name. Sure. She's the Sherlock Holmes character. She's very eccentric, very does not follow social etiquette and norms. She just calls out
raw meat and wears a blindfold.
Yeah, eats raw meat and wears a blindfold, even though she's not blind, because she wants to dull that sense so all the other senses come out. She is a very eccentric character, but also sees shit as it is and calls it out when it happens, even if it's not appropriate to call it out. And so you've got these two characters dealing with a very gruesome murder where a man, a high commander, gets murdered by a fast growing plant that explodes from his body and grows like 10 feet in the air. Because there's also plants that are very deadly in this world, and plants are probably the main villain of this world. So yeah, it's a kind of weird.
You forget the Leviathans?
Oh yeah. There's giant titans. There's a lot in this book. It's fantasy meets Sherlock Holmes.
It's very. It reminded me of the Test of the Emerald Sea, because it was sort of like people living in a hostile environment with lots of magical, dangerous plants and creatures.
And a very corrupt empire.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you guys have reviews?
Yes. I have a 2-star review from Goodreads, and it's kind of what I've been alluding to throughout all of this. It's Attack on Titan meets Lovecraft meets Sherlock, but make it boring and slow.
Oh.
Yeah.
I actually also screenshotted that one because I thought it was actually kind of a good description.
Yes.
I saw another one that said it was Sherlock Holmes meets Pacific Rim. And I was like, yes, that's so accurate.
I have a 4-star. No, 5-star. 5-star. I had a good time with this book. I would read a whole 10-book series with these characters. And this is a series.
Yes, it is a series.
The 3rd one comes out this year. So it's just kind of picking up steam, but it's actually been out a year or two already. So there are 2 books out.
But the book girlies have recently discovered it. And so it's really been getting popular, especially.
Girlies are in their sci-fi era, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting, like, violent, cozy mystery. Yes. Is maybe how I describe
it to someone. I was like, it's a cute mystery. I was like, wait, it's not cute.
But it's gruesome.
It has sort of like the characters and the dynamics of a cozy mystery with the violence of a not cozy mystery. So it's like
pretty gory at some points.
Yeah, trigger warnings for the gore.
Yeah.
Heads getting popped.
So yeah, it's an interesting vibe. Okay, I have one more review, thank goodness. And it's a 3.5-star review. And it just says, too much investigation?
Did they read that it was a murder mystery?
I was like, that's an interesting take, but
3 stars? Question mark?
Right. Someone, I guess, didn't know what they were getting themselves into ahead of time.
All right.
Well,
okay.
Overall, people actually really like this book. It's pretty highly rated across the board. Goodreads, the average is 4.29 out of 5 stars. Fable, 4.3 out of 5. And Storygraph, 4.32 out of 5. So this is like a solid read.
Mm-hmm.
What are your guys' ratings?
I think I have the lowest.
Yes, I think you do.
I can go first if we want. I gave the book 4 stars. I mean, so saying I'm the lowest is, I'm not that low. I really enjoyed it. I really loved the characters. I really loved Anna specifically. Like, she's definitely one of my favorite characters I've read this year. I thought the mystery was really interesting and well done. I think the only things that really kept it from being a 5-star for me is that there were a lot of characters, and I listened to this mostly through audiobook. And so I was really struggling at some points to keep track of who everyone was. I think I would have liked it a little bit more. List. Yes. And I would have loved that. I also just think it would have been a little bit better of an experience if I had read the physical book instead, because there's so many characters. So I would kind of warn against the audiobook. And there was kind of a thematic thing at the end that I didn't like, which I don't want to talk about till the spoiler section, because I think there's no way to talk about it without spoiling the direction of the story. But I don't know. There was some commentary about government that I thought was a little too optimistic. And I was like, no. For a book that in general was about this huge corrupt government and like wealth inequality and like racial discrimination, there was some commentary at the end where I was like, okay. So anyway, we can get more into that later.
Sometimes we need a little optimism.
I was a little too optimistic about cops, so I'll say that.
Fair, I guess. I gave it 5 stars. I was thinking through my rating, and I was like, it's not my favorite book in the world, but I really don't find anything wrong with it. Like, it was an enjoyable read. It was well paced. It was a unique magic system. It made me laugh. I had a hard time predicting some of the twists and turns, so it kept me on my toes, kept me interested. So really, nothing wrong with it. So 5 stars.
And I forgot to say this, but super unique world building. Really, really interesting sort of basis for the world. Like, the purpose of the government is essentially to protect humanity from these really dangerous, gigantic sea creatures with magical bodies. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Along with the magic science system of alteration based off these titans and then the plants. I don't know. I was sad. I did read it physically, and I do think that made it easier. I did get 2 of the main characters mixed up for 2 chapters. So
yeah, I will say because it's a fantasy book, they took the route of very complex and not easy names of characters. And so remembering all those would have been really hard on audiobook. I also had the physical book, and I gave it 5 stars because I didn't have any problems delineating, because they were kind of unique names and I could see them and I wasn't listening to them. So I could see where that issue would pop up. Loved the characters, loved the main character, loved Anna. She's, I agree, one of my favorite characters I've read. I loved the kind of coziness of that Sherlock Holmes uncovering the mystery mixed with the fantasy of world building and creating this very unique government system, magic system, and world where plants and sea monsters are a thing and you have to protect from them. And that's why the government is necessary. But the government also is corrupt, because power corrupts, and you have elites out there that are going to use and abuse and hoard wealth. So I thought it was very interesting commentary while also doing a minutia of the murder itself and the mystery itself.
Nice. Okay, so we all liked it. It did a lot of really good stuff. I will probably read on in the series. Yeah, for the Leviathans alone. I need to know more about them.
I saw some fan art. I was like, that's not what I pictured, but
for some reason have these gigantic mystical koi fish in my mind that just sort of walk.
I was thinking rock monsters, but okay.
Yeah. I was picturing roly polies.
Wow, we got very.
It was a shell and a bunch of legs, and I kind of had a roly poly vibe.
This is kind of a good introduction to the concept, though, because all the Leviathans are radically different from each other. So there's not really like a rule about what they are and what they look like. And the society itself doesn't actually understand what they are. And so it can
Right.
kind
The
of
reason to read on in the series would be to figure out like why they exist.
Yeah.
What's the real story behind the Titans, Leviathans?
Yeah. Because they also keep trying to get on to land. Anyway.
Yep.
Discussion for book 2.
Maybe.
Yeah. So was this book more plot or character driven?
Plot. It's a
Very
murder
plot.
mystery.
Plot. Yeah. Murder mysteries are always plot.
There's some great character development.
Yes.
But it's a plot book.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Have you or would you read other books by the author?
This is my first book.
I will.
Yes, but I will be continuing with the series because I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, apparently he has another series that a lot of people liked. They mentioned in the comments. So, I don't know.
Says he's got 36 books, so.
Wow. Yeah, this is his first real breakout story. But I would definitely consider reading his other work now that I've read
The girlie's got a hold of it. He's going to get more fans.
Yeah. And probably in another 6 months, we'll know if his other books are good because then the girlies will be reading those. Yep. Okay. So how was the pacing of the book? How long did it take you to read?
I think I read it in 3 sittings over 2 days. So very quick. I was invested.
I think I also read it in 3 sittings over 3 days. And I wanted to keep reading. I didn't want to put it down, but life.
Yeah, when I was like listening to this, I ended up going on walks just so I could like listen to it. So I didn't think that there was really any slow parts or bad parts. I felt like every part of it was interesting and like you never go too long without the mystery advancing a little bit. So it's not one of those books where the mystery is kind of like stale and you're not sure what's happening. Like every scene kind of brings on another development that brings on another development. So it wasn't really slow.
Yeah, there are clues that are interweaving throughout, and then they make kind of a tapestry at the end where they all interchange, like they all come together, and you're like, oh, so that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Would you watch a movie or TV show of the book?
Yes, that would be so cool.
Be kind of gross, but awesome.
Yeah. HBO could do it right.
The plant thing is pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I would be really into this as a show. I think we've kind of mentioned like the cozy, gruesome collision in like the vibe, I think would be really interesting in a TV show.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, because this book is light at moments because of the banter between the 2 main characters. But it's a very dark setting and plot.
And also both main characters are like so unserious. It's like the most type A possible rule follower. And then the most like actually just like rule oblivious chaotic evil person.
Not evil, together. But chaotic evil.
Yeah. So it would be fun. I mean, there's a reason Sherlock Holmes endures as a basis for storytelling because that dynamic is fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Time for our busy girl rating. And I have a feeling I might know what it is for most people.
Yeah. I'm keeping my 5. It's great. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also going to give it a 5. It was really easy and really interesting to read it. And I think we read a lot of books that are sometimes difficult to recommend unless you're really deep into a specific genre. I feel like this one is really easy to recommend. I think this is actually a great intro to fantasy book because it's very easily readable. And even though there's a complex magic system, I think it's fed to you in a very like easy, consumable way. So Yeah, I think this book is a good like reading slump book.
And that makes another perfect 5, which we didn't have for a long time. And now I'm looking, we've had 3 out of the last 7 books we've read.
That's
Period.
crazy. That never happens.
The cozy ones get us, guys. Even though I know we're like calling this semi-cozy, but it was Emma, Maya, Agnes Albert, and now this one.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it made sense because I've had a friend like aggressively recommend this book to me over and over and over again. And I was like, after I read it, I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get why she wanted me to read this book so badly.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that brings us to our spoiler alert section. Like all murder mysteries, the ultimate spoil is, oh my gosh. The ultimate spoil is who freaking did it. So, don't ruin that.
A lot of people who did it though. So
yeah. It's very Murder on the Orient Express kind of vibes.
Yeah, it is. Very much like Clue, like who in the dining room with the candlestick, like
turns out it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't spoil it because then you won't be reading along, picking up on all the little hints. So come back to us when you've read it and we'll discuss further.
Okay. Well, question 1. We've kind of already touched on it, but let's talk more about the world. What did you think of killer plants and worms, the politics, the altered humans, the leviathans, there's a lot.
I mean, it makes so much sense when you have such a hostile environment that you live in and you're living in such a like the earth is trying to kill you or your planet is trying to kill you, that it makes sense for like a dictatorship government to come in and like streamline the process of fighting against it. And when you have to put all hands on deck to fight leviathans and to fight, plants that are going to kill you or give you parasitic worms or whatever really gross and gruesome shit happens, like it allows for like a singular focus of the government saying like, our job is to protect you and that's all. And then so people turn kind of a blind eye to the corruption behind it because they're there to put up the wall to protect them. And we're enhancing these people for the sole purpose of protecting society. And I thought that was so, so interesting of how they did that. And it was very clear cut of like what they were trying to say with that.
Yeah, it was really, I agree. I mean, I thought it was really interesting. I loved the kind of opening scene where the main character walks into this really gruesome, interesting murder scene. And the murder scene also serves to help us with world building because then we're explaining how these plants and these growths work and all the kind of like human engineering that they've done and plant engineering that they've done to make their environment safe. So I thought it really worked really well. And I found it interesting throughout the entire book. And I did also like, because they do get into the themes of like, when you need the government and you need this very strict rule of law in order to stay alive, it almost like suppresses political dissent because any instability threatens the government's ability to respond in a crisis. And so you end up kind of living in this very autocratic state. So that was just really interesting too.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I think I'm excited. I want to read more because I want to know more about how the alterations started, why they're experimenting with Leviathan blood, like all of this, what Anna's actual enhancement kind of situation is that she alluded to.
I think they said that she didn't get an enhancement.
But then she said something else. I even reread it, so I'm not totally sure. I don't know. So I would like to learn more, and I don't know. It was cool. It felt kind of Mulan-ish with everyone like defending, I don't know, the camp. They're all in the kind of camp training, working together, whatever. That was actually, I don't know why I said Mulan-ish. It did. It's probably because it's like paper lanterns and paper balls and things, and it felt kind of East Asian a little bit.
It was definitely East Asian vibes.
Yeah. I know because the world was so intricate, the mystery was super intricate, but you could follow it the whole time.
Right. And we haven't mentioned it yet, but also at the heart of the mystery was this like horribly mismanaged disaster where essentially an entire town was eradicated because of a governmental mistake. And so it does kind of get into like the cons of living in a government like this, right? Like there's so little recourse when the government messes up. And that kind of mismanaged massacre was like really important to the development of the mystery.
Yeah, because it was the kicking off point. It was the spark that lit the story forward of why they were committing these murders and the revenge plot. But it was also interesting because it wasn't necessarily government mismanagement there. It was the elite system buying out the government in order to gain land and to gain power, because they knew that this very fertile area could be good for them if they just let it all die. And that's why you get the corruption and get the secret that they're trying to hide. And that's why they commit the murders the way they commit them, which is very interesting. And with the specific not parasite, but like the plant thing, the piece of plant that infects you and makes you explode.
A dapple glass?
Dapple glass, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that actually leads into like my main issue with the ending. So sorry to jump ahead, but I kind of want to talk about it now since we're on the theme. So that massacre was great ground again to kind of show how corruptible the system could be and how elites were, you know, willing to do whatever it took to further their own gains and to further their own wealth. Mm-hmm. And then we learn that the murders were partially committed by a government servant who was very, very upset. Like he essentially discovers or is involved in the cover up and like learns about it, finds out that this family is doing something really corrupt and kind of takes justice into his own hands. Vigilante justice is bad, but I think the book ended up undercutting some of its government like critique, because essentially what happens in the end is the government was actually trying to do the right thing and put Anna in place to try to find out the rich people. And so the message at the end was actually kind of like, you actually can trust the government and the government will do the right thing. And I was like, that's just bullshit. Like, that's just like not true.
Yes and no. I saw it as, like, I get what you're saying, but I kind of saw it as all the arms of government don't communicate, and that's why it's chaotic. So this one official is trying to do good things.
But she had the blessing from the top and was put there to play this.
But he's one of 4 branches. I'm sure this was not sanctioned by the other 3. You know what I mean?
No. Right.
So I think yes and no.
Right.
I don't think the entire government is out to be helpful.
And I think it's specifically also out to discredit and get rid of this one family that has gotten more powerful than the government itself. And they saw them as a threat. And they said, well, we know you've got some skeletons in those closets. What happens if we can finally take you down? Can we take that fertile land back? And then we no longer have to rely on this one elite family. So there was definitely like the government had some reasoning ulterior behind motives. Yeah. It was ulterior motives. It was not totally like they were not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts.
Yeah. And I totally agree with those points. But Anna does say at the end, like to the murderer, like you should have trusted. And I'm like, no, like I don't agree with what he did necessarily, but like, no. That's the wrong take. And that's the wrong take from this book. And so I think the way everything was constructed at the end didn't ultimately make a clear point that like the only reason this was solved was because the government had an interest in solving it. It kind of softened some of the critique, and I really didn't like that.
And that's because it's trying to be cozy.
Yeah. And I was like, you were doing a good enough job already. All right. You gave us believable characters who are good people, who are trying to do the right thing. And to me, that's enough. systems are bad and power is corruptible, but individuals can be very good. And I think that's a good enough message.
Right. You can hope there's Annas in the world working to root out corruption.
Right. We don't need to restore faith in the police state.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I guess
it's the thing of not all cops are bad.
Right. Which I'm also like,
no, but like not all cops are bad.
Yeah, but they all serve a bad authoritarian purpose. And that's the other thing that I think is sort of weirdly glazed over in this book is that, like, yes, you want there to be good police and you want them to do the right thing. And we believe in Anna and we love her. But at a certain point, you have to question, like, a police officer's role is ultimately to hold up the empire. That is the function of police. And like, that is a necessary thing in any government because you can't have chaos. You can't have people breaking the rules. Like, every society needs order to continue. But when you live under an authoritarian regime, if you're an investigator, your ultimate job is to keep upholding that government. And I think that was just, it was just one part of the book where I was like, no.
Yeah, it didn't bother me that much.
I see what you mean. I don't think
I get it, but
yeah, I think it wasn't as fleshed out as it could have been. And I hope that it's more fleshed out in the second book where we get more of her backstory. And then discussing it even further, because I feel like because we're going closer to the center of power, we're going to the inner ring instead of the outer ring is where they're heading at the end of the book. And the inner ring is definitely going to have more of the politics of it all and less so the dire consequences of the lack of government in the outer ring. But now you have the actual political games and they don't feel the pressures of the Leviathans and the plants.
And that's part of why it didn't take away from the book more for me is I just loved Anna and I believe in her and like she ain't no dummy. So I think I'm like holding out hope and faith.
It's a book about heroes, you know, it's not
right.
Despite like there is plenty of commentary on systems of government, but ultimately it's a book about small heroes.
Right. And I'm hoping that the book continues to explore the government and we learn more and like things are maybe, you know, advanced and shown in a complicated way. And, you know, as we learn more, we will also be able to like deconstruct more and find out more about what the characters think. And I think that would just, you know, possibly help some of my qualms.
Yep.
Okay. So on the topic of the main characters, there's Din, who is this kind of dyslexic guy who's been enhanced and has this like crazy memory. We find out he has this very special type of memory where he can perfectly imitate actions that he's only seen done or only practiced one time. And then the Sherlock Holmes character is Anna, who is this like kind of mad genius who like loves a mystery and picks up on like these crazy niche little details and is able to put things together. I really loved that both main characters have disabilities. I think the book did that really well. But what did you guys think of them?
I agree. I think it was super cool to have like they had their own quirks and their own disabilities and their own uniqueness, but it also ended up being to the benefit of them. Like the reason why Din has the ability to replicate actions is because he is dyslexic and cannot read. And that actually ends up being a benefit to him, even though it's something that society and his lack of being able to take a test would be a problem. And the society wouldn't condone it, but he is actually proof of being different actually can help a society and can make it even better.
Yeah. I loved them as a pair. At first, Din was sort of giving me like Lurch from the Addams Family. Like, I don't know. I thought they were a super fun pair. And I loved that part of the book, like they were kind of a sub mystery of really figuring out the characters themselves. They had secrets. So you were also unraveling Din and Anna along with the plot, which I really liked. you didn't know all the answers about anything at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. I also like that. I think this book just does representation really well because the characters just are who they are. They have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, and they just carry on in the world, like using that as it is. The book isn't about them having disabilities. It doesn't like hammer that point in. It's just that's their reality. So that's how they function. Mm-hmm. Which also a queer romance.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, one of the scenes in the book that cracked me the hell up is when Din is investigating the super powerful family. And the woman is basically trying to use this like seduction magic on him. And he's like, I have literally never been attracted to a woman in my entire life. Like she's trying to seduce him. And he's like, I actually just like don't understand what's happening to my body right now because I have never experienced this emotion towards a human, like a human woman.
Everything was funny. Like it's seriously
hilarious.
Hilarious. And that's who I briefly mixed up Captain Milgen and Captain Stois or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, nope. Not in love with Milgen. The other one.
Yeah, Milgen's the war hero. Not in love with him.
Yes, it was the other one. But I loved both of them. So was not mad. Like I liked there were a lot of characters, but I liked all of the good guys.
It wasn't forced. It wasn't like forced, like queer representation.
It was awkward. It was funny.
Yeah, it felt like real. It felt like real romance and real like relationships. Like it didn't feel like checking off a box.
No, it was like kick your feet cute, not like smutty. Yeah. Much as we like the occasional smutty.
And I also really liked that nothing in the book felt convenient, especially with like superhuman abilities. When you in this society that has these kind of engineered enhancements, sometimes authors can fall into the trap of just like surprise, and now they have this magical ability that solves all the problems. And it's like, I like that everything in the book, every ability was set at the beginning, every ability was explored with real limitations, and everything was brought up the entire time. Nothing just got thrown in at the end. So all of oh my gosh, I'm just gonna forget his name. All of Din's like advantages and disadvantages had been talked about from the beginning. All of Anna's advantages and disadvantages were talked about from the beginning. So the book was really working with what it set up from the start, and nothing was just like thrown in.
I liked too that every altered person probably can't reproduce and is going to have a shorter life. So these people do this either to support their families or serve their empire, but they're not going to be the ruling class because they can't be, which it was kind of interesting that it was still the wealthy who do have some alterations, but it's really beauty and stuff. The people who are doing the real work are not going to survive and not going to reproduce.
Right. Like everlasting mortality. That was also like they lived a really long time because they had alterations in order to help that.
I want to know about that one. The like consulates or whatever. I have questions. They keep growing. They never die. I have questions, but I assume we'll see that in the next one.
Yeah, but that's actually a really good example because I also think one of the core parts of a believable magic system is that every advantage implies a disadvantage. Like you can't just kind of unlock the power to everything. Like everything that's really good also has a drawback. So like the longevity, you can live forever, but you never stop growing. So by the time you die, you're sort of this weird, gigantic person. Like, and I think that also is part of why the world felt so real, is there were no just limitless abilities with no.
Yeah. Nothing was easy. Everything was hard.
Yeah. And no one got out of it scot-free, right? No one just got to be amazing and magical without some sort of penalty.
Right. And I will say that's something I'm very interested in with Din, to see how he declines and how he degrades, because we saw that with Uhad, who he was having like episodes essentially and couldn't remember things in like chronological order. It was like in fits. And they talked about like it's an actual known condition that they don't tell the people that they're getting altered, that this will happen as you age, as you use your new gift to be able to like remember everything. And so it'll be interesting to see how Din experiences this decline over his life, because he's probably going to have a very rough memory.
Yeah. And he's definitely, will eventually pay the price, which I do think is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the other thing that really drives the mystery is the elite families. And the world is set up in these concentric rings where being the furthest inland is considered the most elite because you're the furthest from the Leviathans. So those living in the outer rings are generally less privileged, less wealthy. And there are these very influential families who kind of drive the scientific development of the nation. What did you guys think about them and the kind of political corruption? They talk about later the kind of patronage system, which I thought was really interesting.
I mean, it was complex and had different facets, and it was not a long book, but you understood it. And I don't know, I think it was one of the most fun political systems we've read in a while.
Yeah.
And the inner outer ring stuff was crazy. And it makes you it leaves you with enough questions. Like all the questions about this mystery are answered, but you have more questions about the world, but not ones that make you angry that you still have them, which is why I want to keep reading. I want to know more about this world because it was so interesting and unique. Why are you trying to protect yourselves from the Leviathans? Just leave.
Right.
It's just what you've always done.
Right. And also, do we believe what the government, do we believe what the elites are saying about the Leviathans?
It doesn't seem like the Leviathans are actively trying to hurt people.
Well, he goes, was it trying to talk? And the one guy was like, don't ask. It's fine.
Right.
So I was there's more to this.
I'm really interested in that. I love the Leviathans. They were to me, I was so hooked on that concept. But yeah, I think
they come at this certain time of year every year. What are the people withholding from them? Because it says they used to roam before this one people settled it, and it said they were trying to talk. So I'm I need the rest. I need the rest right now.
Yeah. There's going to be another
whole series is called The Shadow of the Leviathans, I believe. So
yes, so the Leviathans become very important.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. But yeah, I thought the discussion about the corrupt families was really good. I really liked that they were all kind of mafias, they kind of functioned like mafia families or mob families.
Paying people off.
Yeah,
Red Scoop.
It reminded me of both ancient Italy and current, and more modern day Italy, because ancient Rome is very much so the patronage system is very much so in ancient Rome, where the rich and elite, which were the top 1%, and not a lot of people could enter that class, would be patrons of more lower class people in order to rise ahead. So it reminded me of that, but then also the mafia system and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And I did really like the kind of discussion of gray area, something can be legal to do. It's not illegal to sponsor young investigators or engineers, right? And so I think that was a very nuanced discussion about how wealthy people use their privilege and sustain their privilege by doing legal things,
just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Right. And so you can't necessarily stop them from doing it, but that is to the detriment of justice, right? That they're able to.
Right. And now the people supposed to bring justice, some of them are part of that system. So it's okay, you have different sides within the same system, which I feel is usually the case anyway, but it's very obvious how that happens in this one.
And I think also a good discussion of how lack of economic mobility in societies leads to corruption, because then the only people who can really help people advance economically and socially are the existing elite. And so you essentially have to be chosen, which means that like if you are chosen by them, now you have a vested interest in staying loyal to them because you know you could not advance without them.
Right. Like, it's obvious Din thinks the one way to support his family is to become one of these altered people, and that's why he cheats on the test. But also, like, we never see his family. So I'm like, where are these people? What are they doing?
He says they're not close, and I'm like, you're really doing a lot for these people you're not very close to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But look, how many other people are like that, you know?
Right. Okay. So the mystery, what'd you guys think? Did you guys predict anything? Did you expect Uhad to be the mastermind? What did y'all think?
That was the one thing I did predict. Was
yeah.
Yeah.
I also, once they were saying there's a Twitch, I was like, oh, it's the whatever, the sublime, the axiom. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, it's the axiom. So I did figure that out once that was like a thing to figure out. I had suspicions about Uhad. I'm not sure I like was like, he is the one. But there were also so many so many other actual murders that were red herrings from the rest of it. So it was like, oh, okay.
Well, and I figured that
how many murderers to figure out.
And I figured that the rich family that at the beginning was going to come up again.
Yeah, Anna made it sound like it was going to be a thing. So of course it was a thing.
Right. Yeah, I really didn't predict anything. The only thing I predicted was that some of the murders would not be connected to other murders, but I really had no idea what the hell, like who was guilty of what and when and why. So yeah, I was along for the ride, and it was really interesting and fun to be on that ride.
And to be fair, like you can't, with these kind of murder mysteries, as they're like breadcrumbing you, it's kind of hard to predict things when you don't have all the breadcrumbs. But that's what makes a great murder mystery, is that you don't know until you have some of the facts.
Yeah. I also think the story, because y'all know it's one of my biggest pet peeves when a character is supposed to be a genius and then they don't ever actually do anything genius. Anna is a character who is written who I think really delivers on the promise of genius. Like when Din observes things, he's super observant. I felt like the book did a great job of showing how he's smart and like why he's good at his job. And then him communicating to Anna, the book did a really good job of having Anna take the details and make believable, but also really like complex deductions from those details that then like led to her conclusions. Like she saw the scene and pulled things out of it I would never have guessed, but like
it's believable, it was still believable. She's experienced.
Right. And I think that's really hard to do. So that was great.
Yeah. I loved it. And okay. I feel like we're people who are kind of hard to fool sometimes because we do read so much.
Yeah.
So that's not like a bragging point. It's just that sometimes it's less fun because we're good at figuring things out, because a lot of times things are similarly laid out, you know, art inspired art.
It follows the same kind of formula.
But this was a fun little ride.
Yeah. And I really like mysteries sometimes resort, I think, to cop-out endings. Like, oh, it was this character we never introduced. Or like, oh, it was this clue we never actually talked about.
Just to fool people. Yeah.
Right. Or like, oh, it was this character because they have this ability that we never discussed the entire time. And so this book delivered a mystery that did not take the cop-out route, which was great. And I
think all connected.
Again, not necessarily common.
Yeah.
And they all were ghosts. No. Sometimes that's the crap to get.
Yeah. Okay. Well, are you guys excited for book 2? Do you have any predictions? Are you going to read on?
Yes.
I need to know more about the Leviathan, so yes.
But I'm curious if we're going to get that in book 2 if we're closer to the end.
I feel like we're going to get dragged along.
Yeah.
And we'll have to keep reading and keep reading and keep reading.
Because now we're going to be in the inner ring where the Leviathans are not as huge of a thing.
So we think.
Yeah. They did tell us.
I feel like all roads may lead to Telegray.
Yes.
Yeah. They did set the scene, I think, for book 2 to be more exploration of the empire and the government and the wealthy families that drive it, which would make me think book 3 is back to the Leviathans. But
the title's out. What's the title of that one?
So A Drop of Corruption is book 2.
And book 3, I just saw it earlier.
A Trade of Blood.
Yeah, okay. That could be the Leviathan blood they talk about.
That, mm-hmm.
That could be. I don't know. We'll have to read the other one first.
Yeah, I don't want to read the blurb because I'm afraid they will spoil it.
Yeah.
If I get ahead on my reading, maybe I'll read it on the plane.
There you go.
But that's optimistic because when do we have time to read other books ever?
I know. It's tough. Okay. Well, do you guys have book recommendations? I have a few.
I need to think first.
Well, then I'll go ahead. I'll steal some. I, of course, want to recommend my favorite mystery of all time, which is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. If you like this book, you should definitely try to read some Agatha Christie because she's written some of the most interesting and iconic mysteries of all time. So recommend her as an author for sure. I also think I mentioned Tress of the Emerald Sea earlier, and I would reiterate that recommendation. Very sort of cozy but serious adventure with a really interesting, lovable main character. And she's kind of searching for her partner. And so it's not explicitly a mystery, but it is sort of because she has to figure out and get to where he is. And then I'll also recommend the book we just read, Agnes Auber's Mystical Cat Shelter, because that's another kind of cozy story.
But truly cozy.
Truly cozy, but kind of interesting world, interesting magic system.
I'm going to recommend one that we've read for the podcast and one we're going to read for the podcast. So Blood Over Brighthaven, I think, has similar vibes about government and society, but also there's a mystery behind the magic of it all. And I think people would kind of enjoy that book. And then The Raven Scholar is our next book. And it is also a kind of murder mystery.
Point. Actually, I'm halfway through and I can already tell that's a good recommendation.
Yeah. I'm only 20% in, but murder mystery about.
Yeah.
I think I have two for very different reasons. I want to recommend The Hurricane Wars because it feels similarly kind of steampunky, all of it, a little bit I don't know, and a little bit East Asian steampunky combo vibes. Also a good world, good fantasy. And then I want to recommend Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies because you've got a really studious, sort of autistic seeming lead character who's out to, find the answers of the world.
Period. Good recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, these are just our opinions. We're here trying to make discussing books fun. So we hope we're achieving that, but slide into our DMs. We'd love to hear about what you guys are reading. We love to hear your own thoughts. And you can do that pretty much everywhere at Busy Girls Pod. We'd also love it if you rated and reviewed our podcast 5 stars.
We would. And we're sorry for not being as consistent lately because we are busy girls.
Yes. It's been a tough year for the entire Busy Girls crew. We've been busier than we've ever been.
Rocky roads.
You may not hear from us next week.
By the way, I'm moving again. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I've been doing that a lot.
It is that time of year. Casey is moving cross country.
Right.
Is this the 4th move since we started this?
I have probably moved 3 or 4 times since we started the podcast. Because we started it when I was in Sacramento the first time.
Yeah.
Then I was in DC. Now I'm in Sacramento again, and now I'm moving to Austin. So this will be my 4th
And it was kind of prompted because you moved from Kansas City. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So
moved twice.
Yes.
Yeah. And Catherine has also moved a few times.
I moved across town.
You stayed in the same city.
I'm here, guys.
But you got a house, so.
Yeah. I have lots of room for my books now. I just got to get to reading them.
Right.
So, anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for bearing with us. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Catherine. Thanks for listening. And when you get a chance, take a break with the Busy Girls Book Club.